Welcome to the HiveTribe podcast. We're here today with Lori Burgess of the Houston Outlaws. We're going to be talking about what's going on with the team, some new things in esports and gaming, and also talking about a focus on Gen Z and the next generation, something that we're all really excited and eager to take on, another new young demographic of users and fans. Lori, why don't you introduce yourself to our fans?
Oh, wow. It's so great to be here, Steve. Yes, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Houston Outlaws, and I also oversee the Beasley Esports division, which is a content brand that's very much focused on what's going on college campuses and candidly what's going on across this country around not just esports, but this whole video gaming phenomenon. So super excited to be here today to talk about it.
Yeah, awesome. We really appreciate it. And let's talk a little bit about Gen Z and just hop right into it. All the eyes are there right now. You given a little bit of your history, right? You used to work at 17 magazine. You have a lot of experience in marketing to a younger demographic. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience has done for you in gaming and made that transition a little bit easier?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Gen Z market is that this cohort is one that we've all got to have our eye on, just to make sure that we're all thinking about it the same way. We're talking about consumers that today are as young as 5 years old or as old as 25 years old. So there's a vast difference of where they are in their life stage and what they're looking towards. But most definitely, it's a generation that I would argue to you that most marketers have still not wrapped their arms around because they're still trying to figure out the millennials, Gen Y. And now they've got this Gen Z that's like pushing behind them. But we have to pay attention to them because this market is going to be 74 million strong in terms of total population size. It really rivals the baby boomer that controlled our planet, that still for a large part controls our planet. But let me give you a pretty staggering statistic that I think is going to blow your mind. By the year 2025, this particular demo, Gen Z, is going to be responsible for over be responsible for over 50% of our country's disposable income. They are going to have so much power, so much influence, so much authority, right? And so not only do they have the spending power, but they're also going to dictate, what kinds of things people do in their spare time, what kinds of sports entertainment properties are successful, what kinds of technology products we're going to get to use or not. Just the way the baby boomer did so many years ago with the introduction of everything from, remember back, Steve, I think you're too young to remember this, but like VCRs, that was like a very big deal.
VCRs were still in my time. I'm in that middle generation.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so, but VCRs and like Apple and BlackBerry and all that kind of stuff, like that all came with a flood of technology and innovation came really as a large result, in my mind, of the baby boomer driving that. And we're really seeing a passing of the torch, I believe, to the younger end of Gen Y, but really and truly, it's going to be Gen Z that's going to kind of sit on the top of the mountain and decide what the new rules of engagement are going to be. So for us being a company that's very much in esports, a company that has diversified out of traditional media and says, wow, we're a company, the owners of the Outlaws own and operate as the fourth largest radio operator in the country. Well, guess what? Cars are being built without radios in them anymore. You walk into someone's home, you don't say, can you turn on the radio or turn off the radio? That's not what it is anymore. And so this new experience means to us as a company that, wow, let's focus on creating entertainment experiences, new experiences that are engaging to younger consumers so that they can spend all their money and all their time and all their interests around that kind of thing, the way previous generations did with, in some cases, traditional sports, I think I would say.
Do you think that there's going to be some difficulty in that? I mean, you just mentioned it, that the demographic spans from 5 to 25, right? People are not marketing to 5 to even 14-year-olds, right? So is it more starting to study some of the psychographics around what their interests are? And hence, obviously, look, we make the argument all the time that gaming has started to arrive, at least proliferating the demographic that is currently in their 20s, right? And when, our generation, I'm in that lower Gen Y, millennial, if we as we start to age out and gaming's been a part of our life, we'll be parents of the next generation of gamers. And we're probably going to be more understanding of some of the gaming habits. But I'm curious as to your thoughts of like, when you're thinking about marketing to that future. I mean, there's also stats out there that say in 2022, esports is going to be the second largest global sport. So, there's a lot pointing to the future and getting involved now, but how are you effectively marketing to somebody that can be as young as 5 years old? I mean, that's ridiculous to think about that.
Well, okay, so let's break that down. So I would say to you that I don't believe that we are directly marketing to a 5-year-old, but we're certainly marketing to their parents, right?
Right.
And parents are trying to expose them to really exciting opportunities and things that are going to keep them engaged, that's going to improve the parent-child relationship, if you will. And that in our case, with a game like Overwatch, is PG-17, so it's clean, it's a great game, it really promotes teamwork and diversity and, achieving certain goals and, really being committed and strategic. So there's so many good things that come out of that. But I would say to you that, there's so many restrictions on every single marketer in this country. We're really not supposed to market to the under 18 group, with some of the privacy issues that go on. But the reality of it is we target the adult. And I think that's the way to go. That said, and I'll give you a great example, we have this special promotion that the Overwatch League has arranged with us with Activision Blizzard, where we're going to be able to distribute complimentary game codes to people, to anybody we want, let's just say, so that they can play the Overwatch game. Why are we excited about that? Well, it's worth a lot of money. For our team, it's worth about $1.5 million in retail value that we're getting to be able to expose consumers and gift them something that would be of huge value. But what we also know is it really ties back to this notion, and all the research presently supports it, that many of the teams, like the Houston Outlaws, are largely supported by players of the game themselves. You become a player, and then you want to support a professional team that plays the game that you love so very much. So we have a vested interest in expanding the audience base, the fan base, and getting younger consumers to play. So one of the things that we're looking at doing in the fall is doing a targeted effort against middle school kids and high school kids. And we think this, and college kids, but I'm specifically talking about the younger end for you. And the reason that we want to do it is, there's a lot of kids that their parents don't know what this is all about, so they're not going to lead the way. Let a kid have that conversation. In fact, young Gen Yers and Gen Zers are also responsible for really facilitating technology growth in a family, technology adoption by parents, because they're so comfortable with it. So we're going to be doing a gaming program to be able to give away these to qualifying kids, if you will, and turn them into, players and fans, and have leagues and all that kind of stuff, so that we can get more people playing this kind of stuff. And, I think that kind of education situation is going to help parents and older consumers, and for that matter, brand managers, understand that this sport is really here to stay. And there's fantastic ways to reach these kids in forums that are exciting. Now, the other thing, Steve, I just have to say, because it's fair, is that from a generational perspective, like many of us, grew up in situations where we were playing, you got to play with, teamwork, play competitive sports. A lot of kids didn't have the athletic talent to perform well in those kinds of environments. And we're finding with video gaming that so many kids can excel. You're somewhat anonymous, when you're playing the game with your friends or with others, in competitive situations. And so, that math, the science, the STEM kind of intelligence factor comes into play. And someone said it to me the other day. They said, you're kind of making nerds cool, Lori. I said, yeah, maybe we are. But I think actually it's cool to be smart today. Smart is what's driving our world. So I think that there's a lot of positives that are coming, and we're all getting excited about it. It must be hard to be one of the early groups in and just seeing all these other people coming in with their own perspectives and business ways of dealing with things.
Right.
And all of that. But I will tell you this, that if I had to be a betting girl, I would say that it's going to look really different at professional esports in the next 5 years, because the training regimens are going to start younger, just like hockey and swimming, protocol and all of that. The kind of discipline that they're going to adhere to as their training is going to adapt, right? Their diet and wellness approach and all that kind of stuff, strength training, sleep, all those regimens that I will tell you as, a COO of an esports team, they don't pay nearly the attention that, professional or collegiate or high school or club, elite level club teams are paying to these other things. And the reality of it is you need the hand and eye coordination. You need the brain to be functioning at top level to be a competitor. So what do I think will happen? I think we're going to see players becoming better earlier. I think that colleges are going to evolve their curriculums the same way they already did in traditional sports so many years ago and have this be a viable option. And perhaps that path to pro is not graduating from high school and going immediately into the pros, but maybe you do, have a few years in a collegiate space. And maybe the lifespan of being a professional gamer extends because the process that one adhered to get to the top level is being done very differently than it has been in these last 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not even mutually exclusive, right? You can still go to college and be a professional gamer. So it isn't like you have to pick the path, right? I don't know what kind of sanctions and rules will come in with the NCAA as that develops. I don't know. But then you'll have a whole different argument about, well, I'm just going to go to college as a student because I make plenty of money as a professional gamer. And I want that experience in my life, and maybe I'll just go about it that way. That I'm not an athlete of the school, but I'm a professional athlete within.
That's right. Maybe I'm not playing for my school. I mean, you potentially could. I mean, our professional players for the Outlaws train about 6 days a week, and they're training long of hours, and then above and beyond that, which I don't. There's all different kinds of viewpoints on it, but many of them stream beyond their scrims. Some people believe that more is more.
Yeah.
I don't know if always more is more, but some do.
Let's get into talking about the Outlaws a little bit in the greater Overwatch community. Obviously, Overwatch is one of the most popular games in all of esports. The community is extremely faithful as a fan base. And Outlaws in particular have one of the best fan bases that are out there, the most dedicated fans. Can you speak a little bit to some of the challenges maybe that you've faced at the league level? The one thing that I want to call attention to is, the lead investor of the San Francisco Shock, the defending champs of the league, saying that he regretted his investment, or if he could go back, he wouldn't have done it again. What type of an impact does that have on other teams within the league?
Well, I mean, the league this is its third year. And, think about it. The NFL is 100 years old.
Right.
Still at the very formative stages. And, just like, you starting your, new division in business, right? What you are today might look different in 3 years from now. You're going to morph it and it's going to evolve and you're going to have learnings that are going to shape it. And I think that, without speaking for the San Francisco Shock, I think every single owner of an esports team is working hard to run it like a business. We all have business obligations and P&Ls that have to be achieved, whether we're, privately owned, as in the case for the Outlaws, we are owned by the Beasley Media Group. It's a separate division, but, we're held to, responsibility to our shareholders and ultimately to our lenders. And other teams are in the same boat. And, for us, remember, we just bought it last November. So we're so new at it. You've got some other owners that have been, carrying the team this is now the third year going into the fourth year. And I think when the league came out, there were, they put a structure together as anybody would. Right thing to do. But I think that there were also some assumptions that were made that were incorrect, and consequently, it's really expensive to own an esports team and run an esports team. And right now, while there should be multiple revenue streams in which to support the franchise, Steve, it's largely sponsorship monies. It's
Mhm.
90 to 95% sponsorship monies. I mean, the very rare will be other things like merchandise, ticket sales, etc.
Right.
Ticket sales for COVID? Yes, right, exactly. I mean, I'd say that we're going to go sponsorship sales and sponsorship revenues are going to be increasingly important until the world kind of works its way out, I guess, maybe.
Right.
So, yeah, so those are challenges that everybody is facing. And, some markets are set up to do it better than others. We're new to it still. We have a
Mhm.
very limited team. But I will tell you that, we're approaching it the way one would a media company. And I think that candidly, that's the way to go. I think it's, we just had a call today. If we're talking to sponsors that brands that are used to sponsoring other teams and want media impressions and content, they'll get it. That's really
Right.
what it's just an alternative, it's a really cool, sexy alternative to traditional media that's been out there. And this group that we're talking about is doing everything to demonstrate that they don't want to enjoy the same media that previous generations did. They don't want to receive it on the same
Mhm.
device tactics. They don't want cable. They're cord cutters all the way. They know how to their discoverability factor is so fantastic with this younger generation. And I personally don't think we even know exactly how it's going to shape out because
Mhm.
like, what are those 5-year-olds going to want when they're 20? Like, wow, they've been
Right.
born into this.
Well, there's inherent advantages and disadvantages, right, to not being one of the early adopters. And I think, you just spoke to a little bit of it, being able to learn from some people that went a little bit first into the fire there. And, is there anyone in particular? Because look, the advantage of being first, the old marketing phrase goes, if you're first, you win. In the case of the Overwatch League, I think that's true in a lot of ways. And I think it's not true in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of challenges and sponsorship in an esports ecosystem that has a lot of things vying for attention, right? We've got the Call of Duty League now, we've got League of Legends, we've got other major titles that are competing for those big sponsorship dollars. I'm curious to hear from you kind of what advantages you saw from maybe just coming in a little bit later and maybe some disadvantages as well.
Yeah, I think that I think probably I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but I sort of feel like the advantage because I didn't have the history of all the things that didn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the advantage I had is that I built my entire career as a magazine publisher courting national brands and sitting down and talking to them about what it is that they're trying to do and
Mm-hmm.
creating solutions for them so that their brand can connect with a particular audience and that audience will have an intent to purchase that product. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when I was the publisher of 17 or L, that was exactly it, right? You want to feature, these Prada sandals, this Armani suit,
Mm-hmm.
oh, wow. Guess why they wanted it in there? So that when the person that had an appetite for fashion was seeing products that they would love and lust after, they would be really inclined to want to purchase them because, oh, stamp of approval, Vogue knows, or I'm a teenager and 17 says, this is the Chanel lipstick I need to have. That's how it worked. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like I've kind of come to this category that way because when we sit down with a sponsor, this is not about slap your name all over our stuff. Doesn't mean anything. How does a marketing director go to their COO and say, "Oh, this program really worked. Why? What did we get? Oh, our logo was everywhere. Oh, so we had a lot of media impressions and all that." Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Did that sell? Did that get more of whatever it is that we're selling sold? Oh, I don't know. I mean, we're living in a
Mm-hmm.
world right now. Media switch to it. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But verifications that campaigns work, ROI.
Right.
That's I firmly personally believe that we need to be able to deliver on whatever it is that the KPIs are that we agree to. Not always
Mm-hmm.
ROI. Because if you're dealing with a new brand, and I know you know some brands that are new and launching, it's really hard to immediately turn a brand's advertising message into a strong ROI performance if
Mm-hmm.
nobody had ever heard of the brand. before you introduce it. And you know what? Maybe if the brand was a new type of bubble gum, I'm making this up, gum, chewing gum, mints. Okay, so it cost me 75 cents, a buck, big deal. Oh, but wait, you want me to try an entirely new cable, plan for my home? Or you want me to buy completely different type of insurance that I never heard of, as opposed to working with one that's, well, I've had 3 accidents and they've always taken care of my cars. Like, when you're trying to change people's perceptions about a brand that they never heard of, I do get a little bit feisty with those clients, because I feel like there has to be an equal portion of that plan has to be focused around brand development and brand awareness, because no matter what research you're looking at from what analytics group, the bottom line is that consumer needs to see and become familiar with that brand multiple times, possibly with multiple messages, before they will even consider it. And if they haven't even heard of it,
yeah, no, I agree. And, that brings up a really interesting point to me, because I would argue that some of the smaller brands are the ones that want to see that ROI, right? They're, the old adage, the smallest potatoes are the hardest to peel. Well, you're completely right that you've got to build brand equity first before you can start to track a certain deliverable within an esports audience. Because I feel for anything that's gotten any traction, you've got to have acceptance first that you're there to stay. There's staying power. You support gaming before you can really look to see any kind of conversion tactic against it. So that's a really interesting point. What about, is there anything specifically in esports and gaming? You don't have to list any specific brands, or maybe it's just been a conversation, but how do you think creatively, or how do you tackle that objection in a conversation when you're talking with someone and they're like, well, I need to drive this amount of sales right away, but they may be a brand that's not there yet. They may be a brand that nobody in esports know who they are. How do you reasonably handle that and say, listen, there is value in you guys authentically connecting here with this audience first, so that they support you as a brand instead of just trying to capitalize on them? Because I think that's what it is right there, isn't it? Stop trying to capitalize on this audience first before you support and learn them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of two things I would say to you on that. I think one is you really do have to educate, because I find that if you've not done a great job educating and clarifying that they finally understand or are enthusiastic about esports, I would almost say to you, I think you're maybe wasting your time. Because someone who doesn't get it, who's still doing that scratch of the head, and I don't get it, and I talk to some people and they don't get it, I would say to you, I've said this to people, like, walk away. They're not ready. They're just not ready. It's like somebody's not ready to go to college. Somebody's not ready to get married. They're not ready. It's okay. They're brand, certain brands lead the way, certain brands follow, certain brands need to see that, other brands had great results in their case studies before they'll dip their toe in the water. So I think that's part of it. But then the other thing I would say is, like, there have to be people like you or me that when we're meeting with brands, we have to hold them accountable. We can't be so desperate for the business. We'll take your money. We'll do whatever you say. Just give us the money. We'll do it. It's like, no, we have to almost be in a position to say, I don't think we're right for you. What do you mean? We like you. And it's like, but you're not ready for us yet. You're not sold on it. And, we're talking with these gamers, young audiences, don't always want to buy what their parents bought, want to make good decisions. Oh, but let's not forget, they're super smart. They want lots of value for their money. Many of these kids grew up in situations where they're either in households or they learned about it from their parents, what the Great Recession of 2008 was like, and how don't waste your money on frivolous and products that won't stand the test of time. So they want to feel good about it. They want products that also, I think, emulate who they are. So when I look at you and I have an attitude about you, they may be less about status than we've seen. And I would venture to guess, if I were doing a research study, they're less interested in status, or they don't define status the way we once did. I'm sure of that. There's certain categories of business I would not want to be dancing in right now. That would be particularly difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a whole host of industries that are just having unbelievable challenges faced by COVID. And, that's difficult to watch. Traditional sports is certainly not immune to that, right? We've just hundreds of friends of mine from the industry are free agents right now, which, depending on how you look at it, there's a lot of talented people that are looking for work, and they're looking towards esports. So I think there's a lot of talent flooding into our industry right now. But you make a really, really interesting point there from the partnership side about aligning on if there even is an opportunity, one, and two, if it's worth doing. And I think people in the industry need to make a better decision about that when they're looking at people to partner with, because think about how many conversations you've had in your career that you've gone really far down the road, conversation after conversation, multiple different versions of the same proposal, slightly tweaked for each round of conversation. And at the end of the day, they're still saying no because they weren't ready back that with something that could have been identified in the first phone call. So, is there one KPI, or a couple or a host of them that you really look for that when somebody says this, walk away?
Oh my gosh. I mean, is there one KPI? I think it would be, I'm dying to have us do a program with an e-commerce account. We're in conversations with a few. I oddly enough am dying to do one, even though it scares the heck out of me. And the reason I want to do it is because I want to learn from it and see how it works. So when we have those kinds of situations, we probably won't price it out overly aggressive financially because I want to learn from it. That could be the best money we ever spend, right? Or the best investment we ever make, because we're going to learn that, this is not something that's easy to pull off. That said, this generation is a mail order generation. They're happy to have everything delivered. We've got the luxury of Amazon that delivers everything to us, within a day, 24 to 48 hours. This world is now set up for all this stuff. So it's about the right opportunity. So I would say to you, the time that the KPI that I would be most concerned about is, I'm doing this and I need to sell 5,000 of these by, in 2 weeks.
Right.
I would probably have to say not possible, because also remember our audience is not just in this small little neck of the woods in Houston. It's all around the globe. I can't control that my audience is everywhere, and your product might not be everywhere for people to get their hands on it, even though they might want it. I mean, think about how silly this is. We have this, a great sponsor. They're just unbelievable. HEB, who sponsors the Houston Outlaws, and they're a grocery chain and very strong in Southeast Texas. And they're so forward thinking. It's not even funny. Of course, they're advertising in esports, so there you go.
Right.
But they're working with other sports partnerships as well. Well, when COVID hit, I mean, just let's think for a half a second about how hard it must have been for a major grocery store chain to pivot. How are you going to keep your employees healthy? How are you going to keep the shoppers healthy? How are you going to restock and load your stores? How are you going to have fresh goods? What people aren't up for that? And so they introduced all these new services. Who knew? They do curbside pickups that are so well executed, it's not even funny. They developed an app that you can order all your food online, and it can either be delivered, or it tells you, you can pick when to go pick it up, and you're in and you're out of there in like 5 minutes flat. I mean, it's just remarkable. They also have diet and nutritionists on their staff to do consults with someone if you're feeling like you don't know how to cook well, or you're gaining weight, or you don't feel good, or your doctor told them to change your diet. And so let me get this straight. So the diet and nutritionist will be working for the grocery store, is going to teach me what to buy for my food and help me learn how to prepare better. Okay, so that to me is like really neat stuff.
Right. Yeah. No, it's spurred on innovation. It's great. I mean, it's really cool to see the industries that should be struggling and the companies in there that made the pivot early enough to actually turn this into a net positive, right? And when we talk about, the relation to esports and gaming for effective partnership strategy, esports and gaming is changing every day. It always has been. This isn't a new thing for people that have been in the industry, right? For the last 8 years that I've been working in it, it's been changing all the time. There's always something new. There's always something exciting. There's always something that all of a sudden happened that's a big PR scandal. Like there's always something happening. And because of that, as creative marketers, we have to be ready to pivot at a moment's notice.
That is a great point. I mean, that really is key. Like, I'll tell you, one of the coolest things we got to do this season once, like, so the league was paused for a few weeks and then it got moving again. All of our matches had been online. But one of the, I mean, we pivoted, we did so many neat things. But one of the more recent ones that we did was literally the league called us on I think a Thursday night and said, hey, could you do a call with us on Friday? We have the call Friday night, like 6 o'clock. You know, most people are out at happy hour having their cocktail.
Right.
And nope, we're on the phone with the league because they want to know if we'd be open to doing a co-streaming opportunity the following Friday when we were going to be playing the Dallas Fuel again. And well, what does a co-stream mean? Oh, it means that instead of you guys, you know, you guys would carry the match on your site, but instead of you listening to the Owl announcers talk through the match, you could have your own host talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. And we're like, what? Really? Yeah, so you could get someone. What if we want 3? What if it's players? What if this? What if it's that? And we went into overdrive that fast so that we were up and ready to go that Friday night. And in addition to that, we sold GameStop to be our partner. And that's an example of what you were talking about as well. Not only the ability to pivot quickly, but also to have the confidence as a partner to understand and be able to recognize a great opportunity when it comes your way. Because sometimes it's like, you can't do that. I wish you would have told us 3 months ago or 6. It wasn't even in anybody's mind then.
Right. Yeah. I love that, Lori, this is actually something that isn't talked about enough, but the last second nature of some of the opportunities that pop up or a situation like that, where that's kind of you're almost thrown into that situation, but being able to think quickly and find a partner like GameStop that sees the opportunity just as well as you. That's one of the things that keeps it exciting, right? That's what makes this career so rewarding and so fun, is when you're thrown a complete curveball that can completely destroy, in some instances, months of work and trying to get partners for a certain asset that could be gone. And you have no control over it when the rug gets pulled out from under you. But resourceful people have the ability to think, okay, what's the new landscape? Why is this a great opportunity? And what businesses could benefit from this? Let's go get in touch with them quickly. And that process of chasing it through a large corporation and running it up the idea ladder to get to the right person is one of the most, for me, on the partnership sales side, one of the most fun parts of the job is it's not really, I wouldn't call it a fire sale, but it has that kind of feeling to it because it's like last second in nature, let's make something happen. And it's just really fun to think creatively in those moments.
Well, we had this crazy situation. It was actually kind of funny with Tegna, which is a big television player, as you know, and they're very strong and they have a big footprint in Texas, and they helped us market our homestand at the last minute. We didn't know them. We were not from Texas, and we got to know them quickly, and they were just gold standard partner, promotional partner. So literally, it's like, I know you're not going to believe this, but it is true. On April the 1st, I'm not fooling, I had this call set up with them, and it was presumably to talk about like how we were going to kind of repay them for helping us with the homestand, and so I was like, oh God, I'm not really looking forward to this call so much because like plays on hold right now. Like I have nothing to give anybody. This is not an ideal situation. So anyway, I'm on the call and they're like, we really want to hear what you guys are doing with the Outlaws and all this stuff during COVID, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, before I get started and talk to you about a couple initiatives that we're trying to get off the ground, like, tell me about what's going on with your business. Fast. Bottom line is, Lori, we're a television company. We carry a ton of sports programming, and sports is getting old real fast because there's no fresh competition. And reruns are going to be running out, if you will, and the consumer's not going to be super happy with it. Do you have anything that you guys are possibly doing? We're all over the state of Texas. Is there anything you're doing? I'm like, well, there was this thing we were going to do at the end of the year. No, not the end of the year. You can't wait to do something like anything great you were going to do at the end of the year. You need to do it now. I'm like, well, like when? Like, I mean, there is an idea that we're talking about that could be great, but like when? It's April 1st, so like May 3rd? I'm like,
right.
Oh my God. And so we end up It is such a long story. It doesn't even seem, when I tell this, it doesn't even seem like I'm really being truthful, but I am, because I lived it, unfortunately. But we came up with a concept, reached out to our friends that we were talking about doing something crazy with the Dallas Fuel, which is another Overwatch team in the state. And, this Texas state is known for its rivalries between Houston and Dallas. And I talk about it like I know it. I'm only freshly here from New York, but I buy it all. And so let's just lean into it and go with it. And so we produced three Mondays. We did these 2.5-hour competitions between our team and the Dallas Fuel. The coaches figured out what the competitions would be. So there'd be real integrity and fierce rivalry between the teams. And then we took bits and clips of it and we produced 3 one-hour sports documentaries about, working in the game clips, but really introducing the players and the coaches and the lifestyle and what professional gamers, all for those people to educate. You see my strategy here? Mm-hmm. It was all to educate the linear television viewer to say, hey, this thing that so-and-so is doing isn't so weird. I see kids are actually making money and a living doing that. And so we did this. But the reason I'm also telling you it was the trickiest conversation, because as we were dreaming it up, we had to put it, start scheduling it to get created in case we did it. We had to get league approval. Didn't have that until the week the first show was going to air, but we shot the whole bloody thing, edited the whole thing, spent all the money, and had to sell it to a title sponsor. And literally, I'll never forget the call, because we had the meeting and I was talking to my sales person on it, our sponsorship person. Oh, we don't need anything in writing, whatever. And I'm like, the call's in 20 minutes. We need something in writing. It's going to sound like I am just making all this stuff up, because I practically am. It's not all on paper. We don't have time to do a deck. Presented the program, literally, not kidding you, on a Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock or something ridiculous. Took them through it. They were all loving it. And I said, but listen, here's the catch. You guys, you got to move fast, because this thing's going to be going live in 3 weeks. And, I think it was the second week in April. And so we need a decision as quickly as possible. Well, when do you need a decision? Well, literally as quickly as possible, even maybe by tomorrow. And they're like, what? And so, but damned if we didn't get that decision by 5 o'clock tomorrow.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so hard when you're talking about large dollar amounts in particular and large companies to get decisions in 2 months is flying, right? So to do it in 48 hours is unheard of.
It was nuts, but we priced it right. We executed it. It was one of the most exciting things. We're entering it actually in a Synopsis Award as we speak. I think the deadline's tomorrow. So we're entering that project in it, because we're entering it in the TV category because it's worthy of that. It was done.
I wish you well there, and you've got my vote, but that's just from a respect standpoint of being able to hustle something through like that. I mean, look, the best success I could speak to is we had one client, the Blast Pro series that we worked with formerly in my career. And they brought us in and they were like, it's 45 days till our first event. And we want to see $200,000 in sponsorship. And we were like, I mean, the event justifies that type of a spend, but we should have started 6 months ago if we were going to hit this easily, and we came in and but that's where opportunity lies. We ended up hitting 150. We didn't get the whole way home, but we did enough, to feel really good about it, right? We felt we brought in G Fuel and Burger King, and just on a moment's notice, and we felt really good about it. G Fuel is still a partner to this day, so that was the start of a great relationship. And but those are the fun war stories that you develop over a career in partnerships. Is those moments where you're kind of thrown to the lions and you're like, there's no way we're going to be successful. But then you sit down and you think up a couple of strategies of, let's be really smart about this. Let's reach out to the companies that make sense and offer them an opportunity and say, under normal circumstance, this thing's going to be 2 to 3 times as expensive, but it isn't because of the situation we're in. Let's talk about this and let's figure out a way to make it make business sense. And I think when you come to most conversations with that type of an approach of, look, here's the landscape that we're looking at. We realize it's not ideal, but we want to work with you to achieve as much as we possibly can together from it because it's there. I think having that open mind and willing to work together towards a common goal is really where the best partnerships happen.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also what you're saying too is it sounds like the approach you took as well as us is it's a marketing challenge. That's really what it is. You're helping a brand market themselves. That's in essence, in my mind, truly what advertising actually is, I think, after all
Hmm.
these years. And so it's as long as, like, I sometimes think as long as you remain true to knowing that's what you're really delivering, and as long as you believe in your heart of hearts that the assets that you are presenting to the client are going to work really, really hard for them, I feel like that's where you can sell with that kind of conviction, right? Because
Hmm.
you know it's going to work. You can look somebody in the eye and say, this will be really great. And then when like a brand like us, and I'm sure I know you do this too, like you augment it with a press effort, so
Hmm.
that everybody's buzzing about it. So, I wanted to share this because this goes back to when I was at 17. I always think about the consumer like as if they were on a desert island all by themselves, which is, it sounds very horrific. And a brand wants to access. I think that's where it does trip people up. There are just, and there's special language in the world of esports too, with like a brand like a Discord, for example. And
Hmm.
people are wondering about what's going on with TikTok and all this kind of stuff. And, I would say to you, we really, really, I wish, the Overwatch League moved the Outlaws off of the Twitch platform, and onto YouTube. And that's been really tricky for us. That's a marketing challenge. I would love to have worked on that marketing challenge, to be honest, to figure out how do you get people that have been used to going to Twitch,
Hmm.
something like it'd be like watching a show you just love in the old days on NBC. And now you have to remember all the time it's on a completely different day and it's on CBS. It's like, that sounds seems so old fashioned when I just said
That
too.
does, that
No,
does, but
God, so
it's
weird. But the analogy of what I'm talking about is like sort of the same thing. It's like, how do you train people that you don't go to this candy store for this candy anymore? You have to go completely to a different one.
mhm.
Marketing challenge.
It is a marketing challenge, but I think one of the things that we talk about is the consumer of esports is an intelligent one, right?
Yeah.
So I think the creativity necessary to connect in a meaningful way is the most important part of an effective campaign.
Yeah.
As we're talking about bombarding them from all these different angles and being on everything, yes, but also in a meaningful way, right? Like in a way that establishes a true connection. So, picturing that person on the island, it's, airdropping a box of food, like it's coming up with something that, thank you, somebody actually listened to what I need here on an island. Stop shooting cannons at me.
Yeah.
I know that you're shooting cannons at me. Like, I know who you are and I don't appreciate it. Therefore, you've got that disconnect, right? For the brands that are doing it wrong. And I think the esports community is one that's very loud about it because, again, something about a computer screen, for fans that are watching on Twitch, it adds that layer of anonymity and protection from what I'm saying. Look, cyberbullying, I bet most cyberbullies are not bullies in real life, right? There's just something about I've got this layer of protection behind me. Doing things over the phone is easier. Text is the easiest, right? But if you can connect with these people in a meaningful way, it seems to work better. It's the disconnect where you miss your message that they are, crazy about. I've seen some partnerships. You want to find out if your partnership's effective or not? Pay attention to the Twitch chat, the chat
Exactly.
bot. Whenever your promotion is running, whatever they're saying is generally pretty in line with how effective it is. If it's a good campaign that meets them where their passions lie, they're going to be like, oh, this is really cool, I'm in. They'll actually they'll engage. If it's garbage, get ready for some offensive things to be written about your brand. Like, I've seen it happen.
No. I have to tell you, I think you hit it. I think don't. That's a really big deal. I think the chat concept is really a line of demarcation between traditional sports as well.
Yep.
And I'm talking really about chat when game is on or in between breaks of game. You would never see an NBA player like sitting on court side, having his Gatorade, Powerade, whatever, and like chatting, right?
And live tweeting. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is happening. And I think what it does is it's just more real. It makes I think it makes the fan actually feel like I'm one of you, you're one of us and we're one of you and you care about us. And Yeah, I think the challenge though on that is that, we talked about it a lot this year, and this is one other thing I wanted to share with you today. We're pretty careful about the kinds of brands that we go after for sponsors, because what I don't
Hmm.
want to do is say, oh, part of the deliverables that we have to produce a commercial with one of our talents in there. Well, I hate that product. I don't want to be in a commercial with that product. So we have to be really careful about that. So sort of, when I first got here, I sort of made this decision that let's go with best in class products then. If you guys want if I can deliver best in class products that you guys get to try out and use or integrate into your lives, then I expect you guys to support them and make them feel great about their products when you're asked to. And then you get to a place like I was giving you examples earlier where they should really they should be the brand ambassadors for those companies in some cases because they believe so wholeheartedly on it. I've seen that. I saw that. It's kind of makes me sad, to be honest with you. T-Mobile was a sponsor of our teams. They're an Overwatch sponsor for the
Hmm.
league, but then they sponsor a few teams. And I feel like I need to go back and talk to them. They discontinued some of their team sponsorships this year because they wanted to work with teams that had both Overwatch and Call of Duty teams, and we're a single entity team, so they dropped us. But you know what was a bummer about that is that the players loved T-Mobile. I
Hmm.
mean, they loved everything about the T-Mobile experience. And I feel like I think it made the players be hurt. I know that sounds ridiculous to you, but sort of hurt that, wow, did we do something wrong? Like, we love them. We thought we did really great things with them and did so much, and, clearly they had a strategy shift, but wow, that to me is an example of just luring, like T-Mobile did a really good job of being a really great partner and making the players be seduced by that brand. And,
Hmm.
and I think that's really, that's the win-win, right? When both come out feeling like it was a great partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what you want. And I think, when you can leave a business relationship, because they will end at some point, especially in the partnership model, right? Things age out. 5 years is generally about as long as they go. Um, you know, Gone, I think, are the days of the Shell Houston Open where, Shell's the title partner for 30 years, right? It just doesn't seem to be. There's so much data and analytics out there that people are going to see that they've captured a market, and they'll move their dollars elsewhere. Um, so look, the esports, as everybody calls it, the Wild West right now. We're talking about the pivot and the nature of it, and I think that's going to be the case. Is that great business relationships in esports and gaming are in many cases going to be short term in nature. A couple years or less, and but when you can walk away from that relationship knowing that not only did you achieve all the goals, but your team, your players were fans of the product that you had supporting you. They're walking away saying nothing but positive things about the Outlaws. Those are the situations that you really look back on fondly. As much as you may say it was challenging living through that moment of making a partnership happen within 48 hours. These are still the stories that we all over dinner like to tell, right? And the parts that make our job fun. And that brings us to one thing I want to close with here, Lori, is you're a prominent woman in the business of esports. Okay, one of the best in the business for my money. I've really enjoyed the opportunities that I've had to work directly with you and see the way that you think about the process. It's a lot of fun to work with. But as a female leader in the space, do you have any advice for young women that may be looking at a potential career in esports and professional gaming on the business end, and any advice you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think the business is really ripe for fantastic talent. And we all know that there's so many women that just have so much going for them and can bring so much into an organization. I think that, I kind of wrote down a couple notes I wanted to suggest to you to think about. Like, I feel, first of all, they need to really believe in themselves first. You know, they have to have an enormous amount of what I would consider to be professional self-confidence, because you are going to be around, you know, you're going to be working in some of these organizations, if they didn't just get built like at the same time, that are going to say, that's not how we do it. That's not how we always do it. This is an esport. This is esports. And you just have to be tough, you know, and just like bring the skills that you've learned in other environments to bear here, to be able to transform, to build big, to dream big. You know, I'm really big on that kind of stuff. And, you know, have your eye always on the prize, and don't let people, naysayers around you, um, to take it away from you. Because I think particularly women, you know, we're pleasers, right? We like everybody to get along, make everybody happy. And the reality of it is, like we've spent this whole time today, you and I talking, this is a marketing challenge that we are, you know, prepared to create great solutions around for brands that want to connect with younger consumers through a medium that they're really excited and enthusiastic about and engaged in. And so I say, first of all, don't let any of the naysayers, the negativity, you know, tell you that it's not possible. If you believe in yourself, you're going to be greatly successful. Make sure that you're working on a team of people that have incredible work ethics, that are also rowing in the same direction, super hard in these organizations, particularly because some of the people in esports don't have the same backgrounds professionally. Some of them haven't been schooled the same way, don't have business or marketing degrees. And so it's really, there's a lot of different forces that are coming into these situations. And so I would say, you know, just make sure that if you are a female coming in, that you feel that you know, your boss, your mentor is somebody that you really can look up to, right? So, and that they have a strong business sense, because the best ideas fall apart when you can't sell them, or when they're too expensive to implement. Like, you know, it needs to have sound business to it. And then the last thing I just wanted to share with you today is, I thought, like, well, I think this is a phrase actually I wrote for you. I said, remember, this is a business, not a game. And I think that people think that because we're in the video gaming world and esports, it's a game, it's fun, it's like camp. And no, that's not what it is at all. It can be a fun business, but it's a very expensive business. And companies have invested very heavily in these businesses, and they need the executives within their organizations to take those businesses extremely seriously, to value and leverage those resources as if they were their own. And I think that the more and more people in esports that begin to take that approach, I think it will help our business, because I believe that particularly in esports, we're being compared. If you really think about it, when we're selling sponsors, we're being compared to the television networks. We're being compared to the biggest and most prestigious, you know, sports franchises in this country. And so you have to really come across like a pro. And so I would say to a female, pick your mentor carefully. It can be, it doesn't have to be another female. It can be, it doesn't have to be. It has to be somebody that has vision, that's somebody that has confidence, that's somebody that is able to dream big, somebody that's able to give others credit. You know, they're stronger. You know, like I always try and hire people that are stronger than I am underneath me, because they always push me higher up, you know, always. It's just, I feel bad for people that don't take that approach. I think it's a dangerous approach not to take. But particularly because your question was focusing in on women, you know, this is a business. This is a marketing challenge. There are plenty of women that work on Gillette razors and, you know, men's fashion and footwear. So, you know, we have every right to be in this business. And I think, you know, the mixture of women and men is I think it's going to transform the entire industry, because not only into a legitimate business, but it's just going to continue to be the sports entertainment business on the planet, really the entertainment business on the planet that includes everybody. Doesn't matter where you come from, what your socioeconomic background is, whether you're, you know, black, white, you know, whether you're Asian or, you know, Finn, whatever it is, like it doesn't matter. What matters is you contribute, you produce, you bring value, you help the brand win. That's it.
Yeah, Lori, that's beautiful advice. And clearly shows your years of experience and wisdom. And I really like what you said about picking a leader that you can believe in. I think that's so important. is to have someone that you share their values, right? And you want to achieve some goals together. Getting that team mentality and that we over me mentality is extremely important to the success of any organization. So I thank you for sharing that, Lori. It was so great having you on today. I could talk to you for hours. So
thank you.
We'll have to do it again sometime. I'm interested to see the team in the playoffs this year and hope you guys make a good run.
Fingers crossed.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori.
Always an outlaw. Talk to you later. Bye, Steve. Good luck.